let's just dive right into this explainer of what is, without a doubt, the world's most alien landscape. We're going to frame this journey as a massive, adventurous expedition through a land entirely shaped by deep, deep isolation. I mean, we're heading to a place that honestly feels less like a country and way more like a completely different planet. It's like a sandbox where evolution was just left entirely to its own devices. And the reason it feels so wildly otherworldly, well, it all comes down to a staggering number: 88 million. That is how many years Madagascar has been completely cut off from the African continent. Just think about that massive block of time. It acted as the ultimate evolutionary incubator, perfectly crafting strange creatures and totally bizarre landscapes in absolute, undisturbed stillness. So here's our expedition itinerary for today. First, we'll welcome you to the alien world, then figure out transport and razor stone forests, meet the lemurs of the ancient castles, track down some apex predators along endless roads, and finally head over to the volcanic newborn islands. Let's get going.
Starting with part 1, welcome to the alien world, specifically the Western Giants. We're kicking things off in the West, a region that seriously looks less like Earth and more like a total fever dream.
Now get a load of this. 32,000 liters. That's the water capacity inside just one of these giant baobab trunks. You could literally fill an entire swimming pool with a single tree. It's insane. They look completely upside down, right? Like their massive trunks are ballooning out while their roots are reaching up for the sky. But they actually hold a pretty tragic secret. You see, these baobabs, some of which are over 1,000 years old, aren't actually part of a natural forest anymore. They're basically a graveyard. They're the sole survivors of a massive tropical forest that used to cover this entire region. Less than 2,000 years ago, humans arrived and cleared the forest for farmland. And these giants were really only spared because the early settlers recognized them as sacred. Moving on to Section 2, Transport and Razor Stone Forests. Let's talk about navigating the West, because leaving those giant baobabs behind and actually moving through this remote terrain, yeah, that requires a whole different kind of faith. Seriously, if you're using this explainer as a travel guide, grab a pen right now. You can go ahead and forget about nice, reliable concrete bridges. When you hit the remote Sirobihina River, the crossing is practically mythical. You literally have to drive your entire car onto this flat, incredibly flimsy-looking wooden platform that barely even looks seaworthy. And then you just have to summon an act of pure faith that this humble little boat is going to deliver you safely to the other side. It is an absolute adventurer's rite of passage just across the water. But hey, once you make it across, you are rewarded with the Tsingy de Bamaraha. Picture a 70-meter-high limestone forest stretching way out beyond the horizon. Looking at it from above, it is literally as if the earth just cracked open and revealed its teeth. This stone forest is dangerously sharp. The limestone rises up like nature's very own razor wire, ready to slice through skin with the gentleness of a literal scalpel. So how on earth do you survive traversing a place like that? Well, first off, just accept that your GPS is completely useless in this maze. The scale of it is almost impossible to wrap your head around, and honestly, the only direction that matters here is up. To get across those razor-sharp blades, you've got to rely entirely on swaying rope bridges suspended high up in thin air, inching your way across a landscape that looks like it was carved by lightning strikes. Actually, scratch that. It was technically shaped over millions of years by acidic rain and groundwater relentlessly dissolving the limestone. But man, it sure looks like lightning struck the earth. It's so physically demanding and treacherous that for generations, local villagers avoided this haunted labyrinth entirely. They believed it was ruled by spirits. It's really only recently that humans have even been able to walk these precarious pathways. On to Section 3, Lemurs of the Ancient Castles, focusing on the highlands and the south. Escaping those razor forests, our itinerary takes us south down to Andron Chitra's granite peaks and Isalo's ancient sandstone castles, where we finally get to meet the island's eccentric locals. Deep in the south at Isalo National Park, the landscape shifts dramatically. You'll find yourself peering through the Fenêtre de l'Isalo. It's this absolutely perfect natural stone window carved entirely by wind and water. And what's totally mind-blowing to think about is that this sweeping sandstone landscape, filled with what look like ancient castles, once lay completely beneath ancient seas. Now, it acts as this stunning portal framing Madagascar's vastness. It almost looks too perfect to be natural, you know? Now, because of that 88 million years of deep isolation we talked about earlier, our cast of local characters here carries 60 million years of completely separate evolution in their DNA. Think about that. There are over 100 species here that exist nowhere else on the entire planet. And just look at how wonderfully specialized they are. You've got the sifaka, which has legs built specifically for trees, so when it hits open ground, it has to perform this hilarious sideways hopping ballet just to get around. Then there's the bamboo lemur, basically a ball of twitchy, perpetual nervous energy. Meanwhile, the red-ruffed lemurs are just totally chilling, draped across branches like living velvet cushions soaking up the sun. You'll easily spot the giant indri, which permanently wears an absolutely shocked expression. And at night? Oh, that's when the eye comes out. This thing is part spirit, part predator. It has these massive bulging eyes and a long skeletal finger that it uses to tap on tree bark, like biological sonar, hunting its prey in a literal echo chamber of sound. Let's jump into Section 4, Apex Predators and Endless Roads, heading toward the beating heart of the island. We're going to check out the island's stealthiest hunters before we hit the winding dirt roads back to civilization. Because, look, even in paradise, there are rules. You definitely want to keep an eye out in the canopy for the fossa. It's a silent, ghost-like apex predator that hunts those lemurs with deadly precision. It's basically evolution's answer to the fact that there are no lions here. But honestly, the true masters of this evolutionary playground are the chameleons. Half of all the chameleon species in the entire world live right here in Madagascar. And they range from absolute giants the size of house cats down to micro chameleons barely larger than your thumbnail. And their hunting gear is completely unmatched. We're talking eyes that move independently for a full 360-degree field of vision, 0 blind spots. Plus, they've got these laser-guided tongues that fire out twice their body length, hitting targets faster than your brain can even process. As we leave the wild national parks behind, our little travel narrative takes us north. You'll be following these beautiful winding ribbons of red earth that snake right along the natural contours of the Amber Hills. Along these dirt roads, you'll pass ancient Mahafali stone tombs that are just so weathered by time they almost seem to merge back into the earth itself. And then the landscape just totally transforms into this incredible patchwork of geometric emerald green rice terraces. Every single inch of arable land in these highlands has been carefully sculpted into literal staircases carved directly into the hillsides. It's a place that really moves to its own ancient rhythms, completely shaped by rice rituals and the shifting seasons. Eventually, following those roads leads us straight to the beating heart of Madagascar, the capital, Antananarivo. It's a sprawling city built across the hills like an ancient amphitheater. And right here in the highlands, we hit this completely fascinating juxtaposition. On one hand, Madagascar is consistently ranked among the world's 10 poorest countries, with these incredibly isolated communities relying on literally a single dirt road for survival, just waiting on Mother Nature. Yet, incredibly, high up in the waters of Lake Mantasoa, they are actually using imported Russian sturgeon to produce Rova caviar. It's Africa's first and only caviar, a literal royal delicacy born right out of Madagascar's unlikely ability to make the impossible seem totally inevitable. And that brings us to Section 5, the volcanic newborn islands, crossing into the Comoros. For the final leg of our expedition today, we're going to follow the massive 8,000-kilometer migration route of humpback whales right across the turquoise ocean and into the waters of the Comoros. So the really crucial takeaway here is this absolutely staggering geological contrast. These whales travel all the way from Antarctica just to give birth in Madagascar's ancient, perfectly stable lagoons. But as they continue their migration northwest into the Comoros, they enter a completely different universe. Think about it. Madagascar is defined by 88 million years of deep, stable isolation, slowly perfecting its bizarre creatures in absolute stillness. The Comoros, they are the exact geological opposite. We're talking about newborn lands formed through constant, violent change, literally born from active volcanic fire that absolutely refuses to sleep. As you explore these fiery islands, you can literally see the youth of the land everywhere you look. You'll walk on Chamonix beaches made entirely of shattered black lava sand, where every single grain is just a tiny fragment of molten rock that erupted mere centuries ago. You'll see the dramatic dragon's back, with these fossilized rock spines jutting into the crystalline water like some ancient sea monster. Up high, you've got these lush green carpeted plateaus that look like peaceful pastures, but they brilliantly disguise the sleeping volcanic fires right below your feet. And then at Lac Salé, you'll find this stunning emerald lake sitting impossibly close to the salty turquoise ocean, separated by barely a strip of black volcanic sand. And then you meet Mount Karthala. This is a massive, highly active volcano right at the heart of Grande Comore. And let me tell you a crazy statistic. 20. That is the exact number of times this specific volcano has violently rewritten its own landscape in just the last 2 centuries. Standing right in front of it, you're witnessing the absolute opposite end of the isolation timeline. While Madagascar took millions and millions of years to slowly perfect its world, over here, the Earth is actively creating new worlds in an instant. Which brings us to the end of our expedition today. Standing in the shadow of Karthala's smoking crater leaves us with this final, genuinely thrilling thought to chew on. If 88 million years of deep, undisturbed isolation built Madagascar's strange world, the upside-down trees, the razor-sharp stone forests, the leaping lemurs, and the laser-tongued chameleons, what unimaginable wonders are just beginning to form right here? I mean, when these baby volcanoes finally have the time to cool down and create, what new impossibilities are going to emerge? The next chapter of Earth's strangest story is already being written in fire and stone, and well, we just have to wait to see what isolation forges next.